things the VSEA is interested in, and it seems to me like they may have endorsed you simply because you support everything they believe in. And I honestly didn't know what to say. And I was like, well, is that odd or unusual? Should they not support someone who believes in the things that they do? But what was interesting about it to me was that for not just this person, but I think for a lot of people in Vermont these days, it's hard for them to believe that someone would stand up for working Vermonters.
We're fired up, won't take no more. 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 We're fired up.
The administration has put forward this attitude of you're the enemy. It's state workers and public schools. That's what's wrong with Vermont. But it's important to keep that in mind, that those people who have that, bullied pulpit, those people who get to shape the debate, and those people who get to frame the issues, go out of their way to frame the state employees and public schools as somehow the enemy. Government is not bad. That's what Karl Rove would have you believe. That's part of what Jim Douglas would have you believe. Government is not bad. I try to remind them that government is us. That what we're about is citizens. We are the public. We are the community, and we are not bad. We are, in fact, what the state is about.
We are VSEA. We are union. 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 We are VSEA.
The reporter says to me, so why were you standing outside with the VSEA outside the pavilion building chanting outside on the sidewalk? And I said, it's simple. The governor will not let them inside the building to sit at the table, so we have no choice but to be outside on the sidewalk. When we have a different governor, they won't be outside on the sidewalk. They will be inside the building, sitting at the table, deciding how to make state government run even better.
What do we want? A plan. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? A plan. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? A plan. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? A plan. When do we want it? Now.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is Jim Douglas not a state employee? Am I missing something here? Does he not enjoy the benefits of being a state employee? Does he not have more benefits than most?
Yeah.
But his attitude towards state workers really reflects not only his attitude towards state government, but it reflects his attitude toward working families, no matter who they are or where they work. And his attitude is one that says, doesn't really matter. We can shut you out of this process. We can give bonuses to, our cronies, but we can then eliminate frontline workers. I said, give the bonus to the guy driving the snowplow. Give the bonus to the person who's taking care of foster families. You don't have to give the bonus to the guy that already makes a lot of money and sits in the office all day. Don't tell me you saved me money by ignoring infrastructure. Don't tell me you saved me money by not providing me services. Don't tell me that making hard times harder is the best that state government and our governor can do. And don't tell me that we can't touch our money, our rainy day funds, money that we have put aside for emergencies. And what they say is, well, there's an emergency. On the one hand, we'll call a press conference, we'll set up a toll-free line, we'll set up a website. Well, the website's not going to keep you warm. That's our money that has been set aside, but they don't see an emergency because if you're Jim Douglas and you gave yourself a raise, if you don't have to put gas in your own car, if you've got good health care, it's not an emergency for you. But if it's your grandmother or your mother or your kids who are going to go cold this winter, or if it's you who just lost your job, believe me, it's an emergency. And if our resources are there's nothing wrong with us saying not only are we going to not talk about not letting people freeze, but we're going to see to it that people don't freeze. Because frankly, all the hot air that's going to come out of that building is not going to keep any of our mothers warm this winter. It's going to take fuel in the furnace to do that, and we have to be willing and able to make that commitment. But
You don't need a man.
No, I don't actually. Never have. Having a mouth. Yay!
Hey, you must be a sailor.
I know. Well, I actually
All the ones that
Not a bad idea. We don't get as much. I think we won't get as much press out of it tomorrow. But
if you're facing hard times and you need to make adjustments, what you do is you sit down and you have a plan. You need to make adjustments in state government. Where do you start that process? Do you start that process in some fourth floor of the pavilion building? No, you start that process by sitting down with the people who do the work and talk with them about how we can do the work better if we have to. You talk about how you're going to do it with dignity and respect, how you're going to support those people so they can then also support their families. So that's the kind of governor that I would like to be. But I also want to tell you something very simple. It's really easy for me to stand up for you. You know, I've been an organizer for a long time. I've had a lot of people, farmers, families of kids with disabilities, workers, seniors, all kinds of people over the years have said to me, you know, Anthony, the problem is nobody in Montpelier listens to us anymore. And I've spent my life trying to make sure that people like that have a voice on the issues that impact their lives. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but as you know, one of the things you continue to do is you continue to struggle. So it's not at all difficult. It's easy for me to stand up for you. It's easy for me to stand up for people who are organized. It's easy for me to stand up for people who deserve and need more dignity and more respect for the work that they do. It's easy for me to stand up and say that people need better wages. It's easy for me to stand up and say that people need to be engaged in the process. But I frankly think and appreciate the fact that I think it took a lot of courage for you folks to actually stand up with me. And I think that's really important, and I want that noted. It was not hard for me. It was probably harder for you than it is for me. I also want you to know that from my point of view, you know, change, you hear a lot about change these days. It's all over the country, right? You know, change is not a slogan. Change is something that we make happen. And change is something the whole country wants, and we're going to feel really bad if the whole country gets changed and we somehow end up with Jim Douglas again. It's going to be very, very embarrassing.